Good evening and welcome. Welcome to all of us who are here, those in the church, those in their rooms or places where they're watching, those out in Zoom land where you are with us, all of us together, our hearts filled with gratefulness for Kay and sorrow that she has gone to God. We will be celebrating Kay's life, sharing some of our thoughts, our hopes for her and for us. And so, as this evening, as we are together, open your heart to whatever is there. Open it and allow the love that is in this room and beyond through Zoom to enter into your heart. We will start with a remembrance of Kay by Eleanor Craig from the Heritage Center.
Sister Kay Carlew wrote a brief introduction of herself for Loretto magazine at the time of her Golden Jubilee in 2011. We'll start there, but be warned, Kay left out many of the good parts, some of which I have added at the end, but most of which I leave to you, Lorettos and friends and family. And I would like to remind us that Kay's family is with us, but they're at the funeral home. So we'll include them in the list that, that Marie kind of evoked for us. But I'm sure her family will contribute to our memories too in the time that we have with them. So here are Kay's words in introduction of herself. I was born and raised in St. Louis, the eldest of 6 children, to loving parents, Nelka and Burl Carlew. I grew up in University City, part of metropolitan St. Louis, and attended Christ the King Elementary School and Nerinx Hall High School. It was at Nerinx that my love and admiration of the Sisters of Loretto developed and grew. I received my AB in education from Webster University with a focus on math, and an MA in education from the University of Kentucky. I felt I was called to be of service to others, and I believed I was given a religious vocation. I was attracted to the spirit, generosity, and love shown by the Sisters of Loretto at Nerinx Hall. I have spent all but 2 years of my religious life working at or near the Loretto Mother House. For the first 10 years plus, I taught in the Washington County Public Schools at the elementary and high school levels. Beginning at the Manton School with Sister Sidelbia, then at one of the elementary schools in Springfield, and finally at Washington County High School, where I taught math and also began the girls' sports program, coaching both basketball and track. During the next 30 years, I worked at the Mother House as comptroller for 10 years, followed by 20 years as Loretto Mother House Infirmary Administrator. I began the Resource Project, which was a program at the Mother House to get the sisters involved in community works, tutoring, visiting the sick and shut-ins, phoning neighbors who were homebound. I also started the employee loan program. Employees could borrow money to be used as a down payment on a home. I got startup funds for this program when Loretto High School in Louisville and Loretto Academy in Kansas City were closed and sold. It was both a privilege and an honor to work with our sick and elderly. In 2005, I was recognized by the Kentucky Association of Healthcare Facilities as Nursing Home Administrator of the Year for the Central District of Kentucky. After retiring as administrator in 2007, I worked as pastoral care director in a religious nursing home in Louisville. For 16 years, from 1994 to 2010, I served on the Marion County Public School Board. 5 of those years, I was chair of the board. My work on the school board was acknowledged in a proclamation by the Marion County judge and the mayor of Lebanon. The proclamation says everything we could want to say about Kay's immense contributions as a Loretto educator. From her first day in Sister Sidelbia's Little Manton School to her last tutoring session just last week. Here's the proclamation. Whereas Sister Kay Carlew served with unwavering leadership to benefit all the people of Marion County, and whereas this community and all its people are significantly better off because of her outstanding dedication and leadership, leading to a prolonged period of steady educational improvement. And whereas the strides made in educational improvement for our children, our greatest asset, are a legacy lasting for many years to come. Now, therefore, we, the leadership of Lebanon and Marion County, do publicly state that the contributions of Sister Kay Carlew have left an indelible mark a permanent and lasting impression, calling forth our enormous gratitude. Kay concluded her 2011 autobiography with this hope: "My desire for the future is to be able to go to Pakistan, where presently we have 4 native Pakistanis beginning a Loretto Foundation. I wish to go there and help in any way I can." Kay did go there for 4 months in 2013, helping in many simple ways. She also went to Ghana with Maria Vissi in 2017 to visit the FST sisters. Kay worked tirelessly for Loretto abroad. With Pakistani medical professionals in Louisville, Kay and Marie Lourdes Steckler and the Pakistan Committee organized funding and donations of water purifying systems and other technologies for the Loretto School in Faisalabad and more recently in Lahore. Earlier, Kay and Lourdes had shared themselves and their Loretto life with the new members from Pakistan, welcoming them into their home at the farmhouse, and have continued their close, affirming relationships to the present day. Decades before that, Kay and Lourdes and the community at Stewart Hall welcomed and mentored several of the 1980s crop of new members. Earlier before that, the Stewart community embraced Billy Vandover, loving and nurturing Billy into health and a productive life. In 1987, Kay wrote, "I have been on the board of the Central Kentucky Community Action, which serves an area of 8 counties. Many of the years I have chaired the board. We oversee many programs that assist the people in the area: Head Start, senior citizen programs, weatherization, and so on." A listing of Kay's community service engagements just in the last decade makes clear that she has never let up, has indeed expanded her commitments to include the Loretto Child Care Center, the Democratic Women's Clubs of both Washington and Marion counties, membership on the coordinating board for the Mother House. All these and other works Kay entered into with characteristic energy and persistence. Meanwhile, she maintained her daily schedule as personal tutor, medical driver, promoter, participant, and logistics planner for countless fundraisers, benefits, and festivals, organizer of Loretto assemblies, of political forums and protests, trips to Frankfurt, and vacations in the mountains. Kay herself summed up her life and her dedication, writing, "I am very satisfied living and working at Loretto, and am very grateful for the opportunity to give of myself to all at Loretto, to the sisters, the employees, and the people in the area. I try to live out of love and concern and support for one another."
Christy, Kay's niece, chose these words for Kay. I'm free. Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free. I took God's hand when I heard the call I turned my back and left it all. If my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. My life's been full, I savored much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Ah, yes, these things I too will miss. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your heart and share with me. God wanted me now. God set me free.
We will listen to 3 articles from I Am the Way, the constitutions of the Sisters of Loretto. Article 35. Our life in community in the present time empowers us for mission and is itself an expression of mission. Rejoicing in and strengthened by our mutual love, we go forth to meet our farther neighbors in their human needs and aspirations. Forever I will sing the goodness of the Lord. Article 37. Our long and vital tradition of teaching takes many forms. We desire to educate others as well as ourselves to truth, beauty, and the ways of peace in the spirit of Jesus. Forever I will sing the goodness of the Lord. Article 41. The Spirit of God is not bound. It reveals itself in the lives of everyone. Even as we give to others, we acknowledge our need to learn from those to whom we are sent. I will sing the goodness of the Lord.
Let us pray. God of mercy, we give thanks for the life of Sister Kay Carlew. We rejoice with her now as the angels greet her. Show your mercy to suffering people everywhere. Give food to the hungry, shelter to refugees, comfort to the dying. Bring peace to our world, even as you welcome Kay into your peace and life. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. We will now have sharing by family members, friends, and the community. I believe we will start with people right here. If you would come to the mic, and if you also want to speak, you might want to come up and sit in the front seat if you're a little ways back so that we can have you ready to come next.
I'm Sister Kathleen Ty. And as I was thinking this morning about Kay and her life, two images were very strong. And the first image was of a rock, because I always saw her as a rock to so many people, starting out when she was a young sister and going all the way through. Someone we could depend on, somebody that was always steady and steadfast. And I loved that image. And the other one was an image of complete generosity. And just by listening to all of the things that she's done all of her life. And it was generosity with love. I knew that she had a busy schedule. I could ask her to do something. She would always say yes, and yes with a smile, and would be there to carry it out. And I think many others through the years have found that to be true. I was thinking today that her passing left a very big hole in my heart, and I'm sure holes in many hearts. But that now she is filling up with God's beautiful love so that we can keep going forward in her tireless footsteps. Thank you, Kay, for all you've done.
My name is Joyce Minkler. In 1996, I was finishing my year at Cedars of Peace and realizing that I really loved this area and didn't want to leave. And I talked with Kay about my desire to start a psychotherapy process in the area. And she realizing that there were not many mental health services available here, suggested that I meet some medical professionals that she was connected with. So she made all the introductions. She started then to refer people to me for counseling. She helped me to find a place right here on the grounds of the Mother House in which to see people. And that practice went on for 15 years. During that time, Dr. Marianne McGrath, who was a friend of mine in Cincinnati, came to be of assistance. She would come to volunteer once a month to see people that I was seeing, both in the larger community and here at the Mother House. And Marianne became great friends with Kay and with Marie Lord. And that relationship existed over the years. And now, as it turns out, Marianne McGrath's youngest daughter, Amy, is the young Democratic woman who is running against Mitch McConnell for a Senate seat. And Amy knows Kay. And I had this message from her yesterday. She says, "Dear all members and friends of the Loretto community, I was so sad to hear of the sudden death of Sister Kay Carlew, a remarkable woman within the Loretto community and in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Her energetic efforts to champion socially just causes, to improve schools and social services in our communities, and to live her faith, provide a model and a challenge for us all. I was so blessed to have known her even for a short time. What an amazing American woman. She has motivated me more than I can possibly write about here. I know she will be missed. I wish to express my deep sympathy to everyone grieving this week in the Loretto community. With heartfelt condolences, Amy McGrath."
My memory, excuse me, my memory of Kay begins. Are you saying something? No. Pardon me? Sorry, I can't hear you. Huh?
They just want you to say your name.
Oh, my name. I see. Thank you.
You're talking fine.
Marianne McAvoy, sister of Loretto. And I was saying that my memory of Kay begins way back when she was in high school at Narings in St. Louis. And then much later, I remember her, and I think of her so often when I go through Madden, when we're driving through Madden, that little village where she and Sedelbia worked so much. And I crossed Sedelbia's bridge. But I think of Kay's work there. That was really a kind of just a sort of a special way of her being the kind of person that she was. And then I remember later when I was working for the community, she was there in the infirmary and working to make it a part of what our life is and to make it very professional and caring as well as we know she did. And then recently, like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I moved to the mother house and retired. And so then I got to know Kay, the great politician and the local leader on so many kinds of causes. And when recently, about a year or so ago, I went with Lordy, Diane, and Kate to a meeting in Loretto, and I kind of saw the way she and the people worked. People would come up to talk to her, and then she might be going over to be with someone. But she was an amazing kind of person with so many kinds of ways in which she really served, the very simple part of Loretto, and then, the practical, caring infirmary care, and then all of a sudden, this wonderful sort of political person that was into a lot of arenas. So, and she did it. I always loved her, especially her smile. And, she just, even though with all the sort of work issues and heavy issues that she was dealing with, including personal, she had that smile. So that's the way, anyway, I'm grateful that I got to see her in so many ways and admired her in all of them, and grateful to have had her as a part of my life too.
Sister Marie Lord Steckler. I wish I could tell you all that I've just heard and seen at Mattingly Funeral Home the last 3.5 hours. People have not stopped coming through to express their sympathy and to give another last message of gratitude to her. I've met students, I've met athletes, I've met business people, I've met many, many past employees and present employees of Loretto Mother House, one department and then another. Just expressing their deep gratitude to her and for having received whatever kind of benefit they did. I've heard story after story, which was wonderful to hear and see. I could continually feel her presence there and see that smile. Somehow, Alan was able to pull out. She has 3 brothers here right now, and her sister and other families. They're still over at the funeral home, and they will be, most of them are at the Hampton Inn. Another blessing, my family, who was planning to spend this week in Kentucky with Aunt Diana at the guest house. But then when the scare came in, we didn't want to spread. Jason, my nephew, said, Aunt Diana, I wouldn't come at all. They're here, they're in Kentucky, but they're not here with us because they didn't want to in any way be responsible for making anybody sick if they had picked up anything on the road coming here. So last night, Jason called and said they had been to Louisville and where they, what they did at Churchill Downs to see. They had the handicapped child, 7 years old, and who loved Sister Kay. And so they talked to her about Sister Kay having served the time on earth that God wanted her to before bringing her soul back to heaven. And it was beautiful to see her go to see Kay just right up close. But there were other parents there with children, small children, and everyone seemed to be comfortable in the situation. She had a way, I saw it especially in the programs of the summer with the daycare children who were a little older,
who could progress with extra help in the summer. And some of you have been there for that program. And some of those children came, and their parents. We saw many, many. Just to see her work with children was wonderful. And some of the children were her own brothers who now are here to see her off. She just had a marvelous way with them. On the other hand, she had a marvelous way with adults. And as we've mentioned, with politicians. I've seen attorneys, I've seen truck drivers, I've seen the past Foodland owner. And as I say, many of our own employees. But they've come from Marion County, Washington County, and Nelson County. And they're very grateful to have been able to be present and express themselves and to see Kay one last time. So just know that the communities are grateful and feel so much better. Donnie told me, Donnie was the man who owned Foodland restaurant. Foodland grocery store for many years and recently sold it. He came up to me and he said, I was struggling. I was just a little bitty kid, but I was struggling with reading. And so she took me under a big oak tree and he told me just where it was. And we sat down together in the grass and I learned to read. But he said she looked to see how to reach each person in need. And then I met people from a Democratic women's groups, both counties. And they said how valuable she had already been to them, even though they're relatively new in this area, and just why. And it was just a beautiful experience to have that. And they're offering their sympathy to all of us here, because I know Kay will be missed and grateful that she has passed through this world. One last thing I want to make clear to those of you who aren't here and don't know the details. You didn't tell them yet about what happened. Okay. Kay was a member of many committees, and one of them was the Personnel Committee, which met on Tuesday, in Michael's office. She had already been to Louisville in the morning to take someone to a doctor, returned in time to eat a quick dinner at noon, and be over in that office at 1 o'clock. I don't think they were in the meeting very long when she said to Marie Ego, I can't see. I'm having trouble seeing. And then said there was trouble with her hands too. They were going numb. And immediately said, call an ambulance. Kay's mother had brain aneurysms and had had surgery for it early on. When we got to right away, they did call an ambulance and then called me over. And a number of us were in the area, in the room at the time. When I got there, they had cold compress to her forehead and to the back of her head. She said, I have pain back here, and reached to the back of her head, the skull, and then down her neck. The doctor at the hospital said, we planned to send her by plane, by helicopter, to University of Kentucky for surgery if indicated. They did a scan as soon as she arrived to see what had happened. He said it was a massive hemorrhage in her brain and that there was no way anyone would be able to save her life because of the amount of bleeding and that it had already started pushing down on the spinal cord. So she was comforted there with pain medication and to buy some time to see how things were going to go and how fast they were going to go. I was so grateful. Angela was at my elbow, and we talked with the doctors, and she was at that point still breathing on her own and had a heartbeat, but knew that she was not going to stay with us very long. So after a while, we were able to bring her home, and she was accepted into the infirmary on first floor, away from the rest of the residents, and under special care and observation. Some of her family who had arrived were able to come in also to that room to be with her. And so a number of us stayed with her through the night, and at 6 a.m. Wednesday morning, she ceased breathing. She had been anointed at the hospital, and we were privately praying for her in the room. It was a great blessing for me to have experienced her life. Thank you.
Kathy Wright. I think Kay could do more work and find more joy in every 24 hours she was given than anyone I know. She was extremely organized and efficient and could get more work done than most of us could even think about doing on any given day. And she was generous to a fault, I think. I'm very grateful to have been part of the, what was the word Eleanor used? Herd? The herd, or some sort of grouping, that arrived here at the Mother House in 1986. There were 4 of us plus my dog, and Kay and the other members of Stewart Hall community just opened the doors and accepted all of us. And I know that that was a hugely significant change in their community life. And they brought joy and support to each of us and offered us what I think was the very best introduction to Loretto and to the Mother House that anyone could have. And this place has been home to me no matter where I've been ever since then.
Since the people in the infirmary cannot be here tonight because they're all on lockdown, why Michelle Essex asked any of them who wanted to speak tonight to write something down, and then had a box and collected them and asked me if I would read them. From Angie Murphy. For her constant work and help with Elizabeth Ann's illness. Kay was there for so many of us when we were ill or had surgery. Billy Vandover. When I think of Kay, I can't say one thing because she was so many things to me. She was my friend and more. And Gabriel Mary, we loved her. Maureen McCormick, Kay was a kind and generous person who will be missed not only by the community, but in the state of Kentucky, where she was well known. She was so helpful over the years to bring people here from both political parties to speak to us and inform our work. Everybody knew her. One of the nurses in the infirmary told me yesterday that when Kay was administrator here, she hired her. As we approached the year 2020, Kay picked up my wall calendar at the store. She asked me if I wanted animals or scenery on the pictures. I said scenery. The month of March has a beautiful picture of the mountains of Colorado, where I used to live. It is a picture of maroon bells, so named because the snow-capped mountains are shaped like bells. I imagine bells are ringing in heaven as Kay arrives to begin her new life there. We will miss you, Kay. And from Mary McAuliffe, Kay and I were the same age, except she was in better health than I and could write much more legibly than I could. So I directed my prayers to be supportive of her talents, some of which I will list here. Being a faithful friend, right, Diana? By the way, Diana, we are now twin sisters. We've both lost our best friends whom we shall again meet in heaven. Number 2, Kay knew and loved politics and faithfully shared her ballot with us for the benefit of us newbies to Kentucky. She always said it was our choice, but how wonderful for me and others who did not know whom to vote for in this state. What will I do without her wisdom and service to us all? I'll have to read and pray for inspired wisdom and be so grateful that I have a few years' experience with her, and with the Spirit's help, someone will help us. 3, her hospitality with Diana was a precious gift. I can still taste those ripe tomatoes, excellent coleslaw, and hear the joyful laughter of our evening's conversation. Kay and Diana were a big part of my being able to say, I love you, Kentucky. 4, one of my surrogates, she was so faithful and caring. I am so glad I will see her in heaven with the other people I love.
I was Lupe Arciniega. I was the one that Kay took to the doctor in the rain Tuesday morning. We left at 8:15 and started raining when we left Bardstown. A lot of rain, but she kept talking, and all of a sudden she brought up her brother Bob that lives in Springfield, Missouri, started talking about how proud she is of him because he for years has belonged to a breakfast club of men that meet for breakfast, and then they discuss scripture. And the group said, why don't we extend this to the whole of Springfield? So they talked to the bishop, and well, anyway, they had a day and 300 men came. They were expecting about 100. So she was so proud of her brother Bob, and then talk about her other brothers. So this was on the way. And then also on the way, we found out that Mount Washington just opened a Dunkin' Donut place. So on the way back, we stopped there and had coffee and a donut. And then coming back, started talking about her projects. I was thinking 2 images that came to me, her family and Loretto, all the ministry she did. And the one that she was worried is that Loretto Daycare, the fundraising, you know, there's still a lot of money. She'd like to increase the salaries of the people that work there. So I've been reflecting on what a privilege it was for me that her last day on earth, I got to spend 3 hours with her. And her life. And as I want to repeat everything that has been said, and I can see her walking here, her walk with her shoe lift, walking around here. I can see her walking from the apartments here, everywhere. I mean, I'm just seeing her everywhere and hearing her smile. And this morning reading, I came across a quote from Merton that he said in downtown Louisville, "There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun." And that's how I want to remember Kay, walking all around us here, the Mother House Mantons, Delbios Bridge. She's around walking like the sun. So thank you, Kay, and we'll see you sometime.
Alicia Ramirez. It was a boon for us in the apartment when Marie Lord and Kay moved in. No one gave better parties, and Kay would use any excuse to do just a great spread. And so she knew how to celebrate. But I remember the first year she was there, she asked if she could decorate the porch of the apartments, and of course there was no resistance. We wanted her, and she did a great job. She just got into celebrating, and that's what I remember her mostly, celebrating. And someone mentioned her generosity. If I had to go someplace and I needed someone to watch Rosie, I knew I could count on Marie Lord and Kay. They just it just enabled me to do a lot of things and to go places. And it was also a privilege to be with her at the Democratic women's groups. They thought so much of her. She was elected one of the officers this year. So it's going to be a loss for all of us. And I'm just so grateful that she was close to us at the end.
Denise Ann Clifford. I agree with all the beautiful and gorgeous traits that Kay had and that you all recalled this evening. But there was another side of Kay. And I don't know how many of you realize Kay and I went to Nearings Hall. Well, we know that she went to. I was a Nearings Hall grad. Kay and my sister were in the same class, and they were 2 years behind me. Now, all of you know I am not a morning person. I've already developed a reputation of not being here very early ever, but I work late at night because I'm a night person. When I was in high school for the first 2 years, I traveled every day by myself for an hour and a half on public transportation to go from my parish in North St. Louis all the way to Nearings. But then when I was a junior, my sister Kathy started at Nearings, and she and Kay became the best of friends. And my sister used to be embarrassed because I would fall asleep on the Grand streetcar, and she'd have to wake me up to get the next bus. And Kay joined us at city limits. And of course, I was asleep on the bus, and my sister Kathy would roll her eyes. So she and Kay would talk. And then they would have to wake me up when we get to Lockwood and Big Bend so I could get to school in the morning. So it became a real chore for my sister and Kay to wake me up every morning. And to this very day, she will tell people, including all my siblings, when she meets them, "You know, your sister never would have made it through high school if it weren't for me and your sister Kathy." And I have to refute that, saying I made it through on my own steam. It was just getting off the bus in the morning that was the issue. I had the privilege of being with Kay when we brought her home from the hospital the other night. And at one point, when everyone was very quiet, I had a little conversation. I went up to Kay and I said to her, because she was asleep, I said, Kay, it's time for you to wake up. You have work to do here and you can't be going off yet. But if there's a better place for you to be, I'm going to let you sleep through this stop and proceed. Only on the condition that you don't leave us without your guardianship. We have our own guardian angel in Kay Carlew. We love you.
My name is Johanna Bryan. I was amazed at Kay's wide range of interests and her knowledge about everything. Sister Elizabeth Dack and I was my friend. She used to say, I would say, you know everything, and she'd say yes. Kay was kind of like that. She knew a whole lot about a lot of things. She was very interested in the women who were alcoholics and addicts who had come out of prison and were being housed by the Sisters of St. Dominic over in the wing that they had allocated for that use. And we talked about that. We talked about recovery. And one of the wonderful memories I have is inviting Kay and Lourdes to go to the healing place, to a big celebration that was there. Kay drove the van, and we just had a wonderful time there. And they were so, it was just a wonderful celebration of recovery, and that was an interest that she had, along with all of the other people that she was interested in helping.
I was going to turn it over to any place else, but I have one last thing. When somebody said, I think it was Denise, that this is Marie Ego, that there was another side to Kay. We've talked all about the good side and the wonderful thing, but Kay and I knew each other as often on opposite sides of an issue. And yet, when we realized that at any point, one of us would say to the other, we need to talk, and we would sit for an hour or more and share and laugh and have a good time and come out of that, both of us feeling much better. So I want to thank Kay for giving me sometimes a different view than I had myself. So I don't see anybody else waiting to come up and talk. So if another site wants to share.
We'll start with the Denver office. Would anyone like to share?
Oh, I'd love to. This is Mary Nell Gage. When I came as a first-year novice to the Mother House, Kay was one of the Sisters of Loretto whom I got to know a little bit and certainly got to love a lot. And I am really shaken
by her being taken by the angels into the arms of our God. I think of her as a pillar in Loretto, a pillar of strength, a pillar of service, a pillar of spiritual living. And so I am looking now at this precious photo of her with such a bright smile, and I am so grateful to have been in her company through these years. Thank you, Kay.
Teresa, we can't hear you. Can you turn the microphone on, please?
This is Teresa Keneally in Denver.
Thank you.
And I think many, many times about the beauty of the Mother House, and especially at this time of the year. But most of all, I think of the beauty of Kay when I would come to visit, the joyfulness, the spirit, the energy, the friendliness made you feel so welcome, made you feel so important, no matter who you are or who you were, and was always there. And then the joy that we would have when she would come out to Denver and laugh a lot and just have a wonderful time. She was the beauty of the Mother House to me. And I think the beauty that she has shown to everyone, no matter who you were, she just was there always, always willing to help, always willing to sit and give you time to listen and to talk. So, Kay, I will miss you terribly. And I think of you often, and I think of your joyfulness, 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 loving all. May you rest in peace.
Okay, everyone on Zoom, if you wish to share, please click on the microphone icon to begin speaking. If you try to speak and someone else is doing so at the same time, please just try again when that person has finished. Thank you.
This is Sharon in St. Louis. And I have a different memory of Kay. She was a year ahead of me at Nearings. And I can safely say that hardly a day went by when the two of us weren't involved in extracurricular sports at Nearings Hall during the lunch period or after school. I think we played together at least once a day for 3 years. And we played softball in the summer. And this is what I want to say about her. She was just as intense and energetic on the court as she was in real life. You didn't mess with her on the court, but she was always easy to be with afterwards.
I'll follow Sharon. This is Maureen O'Connell. There's some of us on this call. I see Mary Louise Murphy out there in Zoom land, and Sharon and me and Lordy and Mary Swain, who have been members of Community Group 20 for as long as we've had community groups, I think, and there's others. But and Sharon and Lordy have always been a major part of that community group. And one of the things about Kay, we always had one of the largest community groups around, because anybody who moved into the Mother House was personally invited by Kay to join Community Group 20. And it was going to be it's the best community group. And I mean, she was like the salesperson for it. And so, I mean, we really at one point got up to almost like 25 people. And it was a wonderful, wonderful, diverse community group. I remember once we had like 6 people over 90 who were some of the wisest people. They were sort of wise guys sometimes too, but wisest people, and people, it was intergenerational, and it was very diverse in opinion. Also, which we came to believe was one of the strengths of our community group, that it was a safe place where people on many sides of a spectrum of almost anything that would come up felt free to express themselves, and with great respect. Now, the other part of Community Group 20 that people were jealous of, and I think some people joined because they knew we had these wonderful meals that Lourdes and Kay fixed. For 30 years, we had Saturday evening dinners that were wonderful. They brought snacks. They were the people who made the sort of the celebration part of the community group. And, you know, people say, well, we could take a turn. They say, no, this is what we can do. This is what we want to do. So generous and so delicious, and made for a great deal of celebration in a community group too. So we're all very, very lucky to have had that much time. And many of those ways with Kay.
You're unmuted. Try talking.
This is Lydia Pena. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. When Pearl McGivney asked me to endow a fund for our sisters in Pakistan, it wasn't long before I realized that I needed all the help I could get. I did not know the Kentucky folk, so I called Kay and I said, you know, I have all this money to raise and I know that you're good at it. Could you help me? Without hesitation, she said, yes, I can help. So I went to Kentucky. She took me to several towns. We visited several people, and we made a lot of money for Loretto because of her. People knew her and loved her. Then, about a month ago, I called her and I said, Kay, you know, we have got to get Amy McGrath elected. And she, of course, agreed. I said, if I weren't fundraising for Havern, I would be there knocking on doors. So when Denise Ann said that she talked with Kay and told her that she still had work to do, yes, Kay, you do. I'm counting on you to elect Amy McGrath. Thank you very much.
This is Kathy Smith in Kansas City, and I happen to be one of those 4 that was in the herd, or I think Eleanor called us the crop of new members with the dog that Stewart Hall opened their home and their hearts to, and spent so many days and nights doing all kinds of things. Anything with Kay Carlew was an adventure, and in the midst of that adventure you were on, she would be thinking about the next great adventure that needed to happen or we needed to be on. And one of the ways we used to look for a little downtime was planning trips. So you could often find Kay with a map searching out the next destination we ought to go check out. And then we ought to take 10 or 12 of the sisters from the infirmary because they would like a vacation too. Why not? I mean, that was just Kay. Her heart was as big as her chest cavity, and she couldn't, never stop doing things or finding something else to do. But I must say, with today's announcement from the NCAA that there's no March Madness, I am so glad Kay Carlew is not on the earth, because She could not get through March without March Madness. And some of my fondest memories are cheering the Kentucky Wildcats with Kay well into the wee hours of the morning. We will miss you, Kay, and we have, you've set the bar pretty high for a lot of us, but you have made my life richer, and it was a blessing to be your friend.
Anyone else?
Barbara, am I talking?
Yes.
Oh, I'm talking to Nicole. This is Barbara Nicholas. I just have to follow Kathy Smith there to say it's only because of Kay that I would wear Wildcat blue and white tonight. She and I were on opposite sides when the NCAA tournament came around, and I'd be for Louisville and she'd be for Kentucky. And we always, Kathy, looked forward to those little ways of being in opposition to one another. I can only echo everybody's warm appreciation for Kay, for her wonderful generosity and the blessing that she is in Loretto. Thank you.
I think that's it, Mother House.
Thanks to everyone for the sharing, for opening your hearts, for giving us different glimpses of Kay. And now we sing, we give you glory, thanks, and praise. Oh, bless our works and guide our way. Glory, 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 glory. We give you glory, thanks, and praise. Will you put it away? Will you put this away? Yeah. Okay.